Hey guys, what's up? How you doing today? Welcome back to this YouTube channel. It's your guy Igor here. Today, guys, I want to share a sad story. An international student in Canada is getting deported for working more than 20 hours in a week. Once again, guys, thank you so much for congratulating me on getting my Canadian passport. Thank you so much. In the unboxing video, you got tons of views, guys, and tons of comments. It's because, guys, thank you so much for supporting me on that video, and thank you for all the best wishes. I'm so honored, guys, to be in this country and finally getting done with all the immigration, where I can call this country now my home and myself a citizen. Actually, guys, I want to show you something. Look at this. I just got this from Walmart. Ooh, what is this? I didn't even unbox it. Oh, it's that insane lady from the Avengers that can move ships, and like she's like the new strongest Avenger, I guess. I still prefer Thor over anyone. But anyways, let's get back to the topic. Guys, I'll tell you this. When I came to Canada in August 2012, the legislation was way more complicated than it is right now. I cannot imagine people are complaining that they cannot work enough hours. When I came to Canada, it's like wondering with their grandfather. When I was young, when I came to Canada, you were not allowed to work the 20 hours, okay? You were allowed to work 20 hours only after 6 months of studying. And what that means is that you come to study here, you start studying your semester, one semester, and a semester is like, what's the price? About $7,000, right? One semester is four months. So you basically, without taking a break, in 6 months, you finish 1.5 semester, and then you apply for your work permit, off-campus work permit. That's what I did, to be able to work the 20 hours, because you were not supposed to work even that. And then, only then, about by the end of the second semester, out of 2 years that I studied, that's when you're allowed to start working, which doesn't make sense and was absolutely brutal, absolutely insane. And the reason why I did not work in Canada when I was studying is because I heard all of those bad stories. A student got a Metro Pass for TTC, and he was selling it on a train station, which is not legal to sell it, because only authorized TTC is allowed to sell it. Students are not allowed. So the person was facing deportation for trying to make 30 bucks on a TTC to sell the one that he or she doesn't need it anymore. And they were facing deportation while trying to keep them in Canada for that student. It's insane. So I did not want to risk that, and that's the reason why I was like, you know what, I better stay poor, I better stay out of money, but not break any legislation here. Guys, we are also going to look at the footage right now of what happened, and then I'm going to provide you with some comments on what I think really happened and what you should know if you're coming here as an international student.
So he just took my license with him, and just came back after like 10 minutes, and he was like, okay man, you are a student? I was like, yeah, I'm a student. So which college and all that. He was asking me about some, like, what college you're studying, what time you're studying, something like that, you know. So after that, I just told everything, whatever he was asking me. I didn't lie. So then after, again he came back, and he was like, okay man, you are under arrest. So I was like, why? What happened? You are working more than 20 hours, I can see in your logbooks. So he just come down. I was like, okay. So he handcuffed me and put me in his car and took me all the way to the CBSA office in the Cornwall.
When he's arresting you and putting you in his car, how are you feeling? What's going through your...
It was totally broken, you know. It was first time. Never had the handcuffed before. And moreover, he was like, okay man, you will be sent, like, they guys will be sending you back home in like as soon as tomorrow.
So what were you feeling in that moment as he's telling you that?
It was like saddest moment ever, you know.
You know, guys, I just feel a little bit touched by this video. I feel a little bit sad for this student. And let me tell you, I have two sides of the story, and I'm going to touch both of them and a little bit explain it from my experience as an international student and explain why it happened to this individual. That person who got arrested and getting deported from Canada, facing the deportation, guys, the thing is, I do understand the struggles of international students. I do understand his perspective. When his family saved up all of their family savings, invested into, into coming to a different country, into trying to settle in that country. All those savings, hard-earned money from, for many, many years, maybe decades, student loans he's probably from India, he's probably from Punjab, student loan from that place that might be not paid off, and the insane amount of money spent for tuition, and the person is trying to afford everything. It's really, really difficult, and I do understand that. Now let me tell you a little bit what this country thinks about it. In my perspective, of course, I don't know what people think about it, but my perspective is this, guys. As an international student, you are coming mainly to study, and when you're getting your student visa, you are given basically an explanation letter how you're going to come here, study, and leave. People who come here as international students are not expected to be international workers, and they are expected to study and not work. That's kind of the perspective of the government here, as far as I understand, by my understanding. So you're here to study, to graduate, and go back home. And there is no opportunity for you to make an extra money working 20 hours per week. However, I do understand how expensive it is, how impossibly expensive it is to afford it. And I was in the same situation. I spent about about 26 something thousand dollars plus 2 years of staying, renting, $1,000 something a month. I would say close to $45,000 it cost me to study in Canada. The entire endeavor. International students are always searching for shortcuts, and I even know a story of two guys who went to the Niagara College because it was cheaper, like half the price of other colleges. They wanted to save money. They wanted to get their working visa by, studying less and paying less and, getting the proper work permit. But guess what happened? Those two guys got deported because of that. They had to appeal, and I know that one of them is back to Canada. I think he already got his permanent residency, so the success story is there. But he had to go back to India for like few years. At least before he could go back, he had to go through court, through appeal process. I don't know what he had to do, but what I do know is because of him trying to cheat the system, he ended up in that screwed up situation. Same thing with this poor fellow. He is in this video as the victim, and I do understand his feeling. He was trying to make money. He was thinking he's not going to get caught. He was thinking that legislation is, it's flexible here, and he got busted. Lots of people probably told him stories who did work like that and they never got caught, and it's good for them. But if you're driving, you have a logbook, and I currently work with drivers a lot, so I know a lot about legislation. I basically work in logistics, and I've been working with truckers, and there is a logbook, okay? It's a legislation. If the Department of Transportation pulls you over and you don't have a logbook, there's a huge fine for that. And what happens there? Employers in Canada, they don't care about, they don't care what the legislation is on you, okay? Or they can pretend like they don't know. You have something that allows you to work, and then if you get caught, well, it's not their problem. They're not going to be deported. However, I do believe that the employer of that person who is getting deported should be charged, and maybe they should give that guy another chance to stay in Canada. I don't think it's a good thing that poor fellow gets, kicked out, but he took the risk. But also, I think it's the employer, the truck company that hired him, that let him work so many hours knowingly. They too violated the legislation. They did not look at the paperwork. They did not look, I don't know. They should be investigated at first place. I think the employers should be investigated in first place. Unless the guy decided to work for cash and got busted then. But still, I'm coming from a country where I used to make $1 an hour. Country where people average $300 a month, a country that is one of the most poor countries in Europe right now, and I know how difficult it was, but we have to respect the legislation of the countries we are coming to. We have to respect where we are. You are coming to a new country, and the thing is this, when you're doing your migration, they have to make sure that you follow the regulation, that you respect that country, you respect the laws of that country. And you know, when you work more hours than you are allowed to work, first of all, it's dishonest. Secondly, it's violating the legislation. There are means to try and push this legislation. Maybe it will work. But in defense of this legislation, I want to say this. Unemployment rate here is huge. Lots of Canadian-born people are searching for jobs. They can't find it. And you know what kind of chaos it's going to be when international students, highly qualified professionals, engineers, doctors, and so on, are going to start doing their jobs for minimum wages. It's going to harm lots of Canadian families, of people who were born here, who were raised here, who are citizens, who've been here before we international students came here. I think that's a little bit unfair to majority of population of the country. It would create that chaos where it's going to be really difficult for everyone, and employers are just going to take advantage of international students to protect from that. And also keep in mind that coming here as an international student, if you work more than 40 hours, if you're more than 20 hours, you're already kind of interfering in your studying. It's really difficult to study here. So you start to neglect your education. And that's the primary purpose why you get the study permit. If you're coming here as an international worker, then there is a work permit. You have to get the LAMIA, you have to get sponsored, and that's a different story. But if you're here as an international student, you are, in the eyes of the country, you are here just to study. That you are, for example, that I wanted to stay in this country as an international student, that was only my thinking. That's not what was expected from me, okay? When I came here as an international student, I wanted to graduate. I wanted to make sure I have enough money, which luckily I did, thanks to my parents. Thanks a lot to my dad and my mom, who sponsored me on my education, and who I didn't have to go in debt for that. And I was really blessed with my parents to graduate, get my work permit, and then I started working as much as I could. Legally, I was allowed to work, and then that work permit turned into my Canadian work experience and permanent residency. Eventually, Canadian education also contributed some points. All this together, combined into a bundle, made me a really competitive immigrant to apply in Canada and try and make Canada my home. And I did that. In 2016, I ended up getting my permanent residency, and this year, like literally a month ago, I got my citizenship. So it took a while. I had to be in this country for so many years, insane amount of money spent, insane amount of taxes paid, really lots of contribution to the economy, and I guess that's what it takes. Alright guys, I know that, I've been in that shoe as international student, guys, and it was way tougher during my times. You're not allowed to work for first 6 months, then the application would take another 1 month or 2 months. So for example, 8 months after you come to Canada, even if you want to work part-time, you could get something for cash, but once again, if you get caught, you might end up like that guy on that video getting deported, meaning that all of his money, like I don't know if he's finished his education. If he gets deported without finishing his education, basically means the money is lost. They are not going to be refunded. He's going to go back home without finishing the education, without the money that he could have made on the work permit if he studied and worked that 20 hours, not more. If he followed the regulation, he would get his work permit. He would save up enough money to pay off his debt, and maybe he'll be getting his permanent residency soon. And he screwed up. He screwed up. And that's all I'm saying, guys. To answer the question that I'm asked lots of time, how does Canada check if you work 20 hours or more? This is how. You get caught once and you get into trouble. To answer the question, can I work more than 20 hours? I guess this is the answer. You cannot work 20 hours. And you know, if you get caught like that by a policeman, do you want to be like that person who is right now being deported? Of course not. So I say, guys, be safe. Please follow the legislation. Please follow the regulation. Please respect the country that you are in. If you're allowed to work 20 hours, do work that 20 hours. If you are allowed to work 40 hours, work 40 hours. You know, follow. If you have the permission from the government to do that, do that. If you don't, please don't do that. Please don't do that, because I want you, I want you to succeed. If your dream is to, like my dream, is to live in this beautiful country, follow the legislation, do it legally, do it morally, do it ethically, do it correctly. Come and live here a happy life for you and your kids. Do not bend the rules, do not screw up with the system. It's a beautiful country, and it's only beautiful due to its legislation, the people, and the way it's maintained, and the jurisdictions, police, and everything. The entire system makes this country function in the way it is, and it is a better place when everyone obeys the law and everyone respects the country and how it is. Alright guys, I want to thank you so much, and I want to see you in Canada, guys. If you're coming here as an international student, leave a comment, and please don't do those stupid things like working more than 20 hours. You see what it leads to. That's one person got caught, one person got on camera. You never know how many people got deported without ever getting to media. You never know how many people. You never know that person can be any of the international students who make such a dumb mistake. Alright guys, I want to read your comments, okay? I want to find out if international students are forced into this kind of condition by paying 3 times more tuition than local students, or is the government correct? I also want to tell you guys there is a link in the description if you want to go and support and give that guy a second chance. My personal opinion, every international student deserves a second chance, but sometimes they might not, because you have to obey the legislation of a country. If you come to a country and you think you can get away with anything, there will be no order, there will be no Canada, and that's why we all have to respect the legislation. So in my personal opinion, I don't know how this should be handled. I personally think that employer of that person should be first investigated and charged according to the legislation for employing and allowing international students to work more hours than they're supposed to. It's not like that person is the only at fault. It's the employer who hired that person and said, you are okay, you work more than 20 hours, we don't care. We close our eyes, we never seen your documents. They are supposed to check the paperwork. They're supposed to know. Where is the employer? Why is the employer not getting deported? Well, I don't know, my employer might be a Canadian, but I'm saying that there should be a fine and there should be a charge. There should be a way to motivate the employers from doing that. And if that student was working for cash and got caught like that, then I'm sorry. There is nothing else I can say. Guys, leave your comment, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel to see more, and we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.